Hey guys, today I want to talk about JavaScript books that I wouldn't recommend for new and aspiring developers. I know that within the coding industry, a lot of times this specific book and series gets mentioned as the top 10 books to read and understand, but I'll give you my input and reason why I wouldn't recommend it for new and aspiring developers. Without further ado, the books that I wouldn't recommend for new and aspiring developers are the You Don't Know JS series books. The reason why I don't recommend it for new and aspiring developers is that reading these books are very meaty and very hard to get a good grasp on when first learning how to code. In the beginning, you're going to be learning how to write JavaScript code and learning the syntax, building out applications. Good about these books is that it goes over the nitty-gritty details of JavaScript. If you were not aware, JavaScript was more or less built in a week. And that allows a lot of flexibility, but it also includes a lot of nuances about JavaScript that right now most developers don't really have to go through, but it's always good to understand the fundamentals and some of the edge cases when using JavaScript. But to my point of why I wouldn't recommend it for new and aspiring developers is because when you're first learning how to code, you don't really need to know what are these very, very rare edge case scenarios. Your primary focus should be, how do I build out a function? How do I use the map or each function, or how do variables work within JavaScript? But the You Don't Know JS really goes into the weeds of JavaScript, and I personally would not recommend these for when you're just starting off. I got these books when I started attending my coding bootcamp school, and I thought it would be a great resource for me to kind of take a break from learning how to code and just read. But what I found myself doing was I was highlighting, trying to understand what was going on, but in reality, I just did not know enough JavaScript to really find value from these books. 1 or 2 years later, after I found the job, I revisited these books back, and granted, I had about 1 to 2 years of JavaScript experience. And what I mean by that is I was using JavaScript every day. I knew how to define variables, I knew how to use my functions, I knew how to integrate parameters and arguments using JavaScript on click handlers, things that you'll be using on an everyday basis when building out front-end applications. And now that I knew the basic fundamentals, it was a good idea to now open these books and have a better understanding of these books with the foundations that I built. What I found really important is not that these books are not good, but these books are really good when you already have a great grasp of JavaScript from a very high level perspective. Like I said before, when you're first learning how to code, it's going to be already difficult to figure out what a function is or what a variable is and how do you connect event handlers to JavaScript functions. No pun intended, you don't need to know JavaScript from this perspective. If I had to compare it to building a house and having a set of tools, you can use your set of tools to build a house. And in this scenario, the house would be the application that you're building. The tools would be the JavaScript functions and the utilities that are required to make the application. But you as a developer, you don't really have to know how was that hammer built, why was it built that way, why was the drill built in that way where you have to plug it in to an outlet and get it to work. You just know that you have to use the drill to screw on that screw or hammer in that nail, right? So imagine that as a builder of an application or a builder of a house, you just want to build the application. You want to get good at it. You know that in this scenario, I'm going to use a hammer. In this scenario, I'm going to use a drill. From a coding perspective, in this scenario, you're going to use the for each function. And in this scenario, you're going to use the filter function. But to know how and why that filter function was built the way it was, or why certain scoping of variables is done in that way in JavaScript, I personally don't think you need to know it, at least in the beginning. This recommendation is based on aspiring developers that are kind of under a time crunch in terms of trying to find a job in those 3 to 6 months. The ROI for reading these books, in my opinion, is not worth it because you want to focus your attention and what little time you have in getting the functions right, knowing when to use those functions, building out your application, building out your portfolio. My recommendation of when you should read these books is once you've gotten to your job, ironed out your JavaScript fundamentals, using it every day, and once you've used it every day, just kind of read it at your leisurely pace. learn a lot about JavaScript that I personally don't think you would use in 90% of the times, but it really builds a good foundation of why certain things work the way they do in JavaScript. And when you learn the nuances or the edge cases of JavaScript and you go on to learn a new language, you can see how certain languages are more performant or more beneficial in terms of statically typed languages and stuff like that. So you actually can gain and gather an opinion that you wouldn't normally have when you're just kind of building out just regular applications. I hope that this video was not demoralizing, and if you've already started reading these JavaScript books, then keep going at it. And if you find yourself confused or dazed about why you can't understand these You Don't Know JS books, then I hope that this video makes it a little bit easier for you to feel a bit relieved. Books are a hard read in my opinion, and if you don't have the basic fundamentals down, trying to get a good grasp of this is going to be very hard. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments below. If you like content like this, leave a like and subscribe. I'm always appreciative of my new subscribers. And if you have any questions, like I said, you could always hit me up on an email and whatnot. Until then, Tech Rally out, and I'll see you later. Bye.